All right, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and present my screen here, and I will take you away to the magical world of Power BI. All right. Welcome. Welcome to Power BI. Like I said, my name is Dan Griffin. The company I work for is Directions Training. They're the one that's putting on this webinar here today. Power BI is a business analytics tool, and that's what we're going to be using today. We're going to be creating visualizations using Power BI. If you have no idea what the heck Power BI even is, maybe you just somehow stumbled into this room from a link on the internet that you don't even know how you got here, that's what we're doing today. So if you've never experienced Power BI before, you are in the right place. This is an introduction to Power BI. And at the end of our training class today, you will be able to access Power BI on your own. You will be able to use your own data and create really awesome visualizations just by the end of this webinar, okay? So let's talk about what Power BI is. Power BI is a business intelligence and analytics tool for visualizing and modeling data. That's really all it is. You're making visualizations. It was originally developed as an Excel plugin. If you are comfortable working in Excel, if you can do data entry in Excel, you can manage data and do some sorting and filtering, and you've worked with Excel tables, you can use all of those skills in Power BI, and as a matter of fact, you're going to be good to go with Power BI. If you have no idea what that stuff is in Excel, again, don't worry. You're going to see how easy it is to get going with Power BI here, with any data source. So Power BI tools is, I want to talk basically about what tools we have in Power BI that we're going to be working with. The most important one to start is getting your data into Power BI. How the heck do I get data into Power BI? And before I move forward with that, there are two different applications for Power BI. There is the web application, which is what I'm going to be working in primarily today. There is also a downloadable desktop version. Power BI Basic is free to everybody on the planet. So I'll show you in a second where you can go to get started with Power BI. You might already have Power BI from your organization, and there are a couple different levels, but the main thing that I want to differentiate between is the web application, which you'll do through a web browser, and the desktop application. There is one slight difference between the two, but other than that, they work in the exact same way. So when we're starting out either in the web app or in the desktop app, the first thing that we typically do is we need to bring our data in. That tool we use is called Get Data. Once we get our data, we may need to do some data modeling. Now, I want you to notice under Model Data, I only have the Power BI desktop listed. So that is the one important thing to know between the web app and the desktop app. The web app, you bring in your data, you make visualizations, and create dashboards and reports, and you're done. The desktop app allows you to do those same things, but it also allows you the opportunity to model data. Now, what is modeling data? Modeling data would mean if I have two tables of data and I want to create a relationship between those so that I can use the data from both tables in one visualization, I might need to do some data modeling. So it has to do with like working with databases. If you've worked in Access and you understand inner joins and outer joins and how to make joins, that's basically what I'm talking about here in Power BI. So if you need to connect two tables in Power BI so you can use them like one, you would need to use the desktop app so that you can do that data modeling. The next thing is what we're really going to be focusing on today, which is creating our visualizations and reports. You can do it in both the web app and the desktop app, no problem. And then finally, we'll share it. We'll share what we've created with an audience. And again, it's the same sort of thing in the web app or the desktop app. There is also a Power BI mobile app that you can use to create and publish data as well. All right, so the Power BI process, what we're focusing on today. Get data, model data if you have the desktop app, create your visualizations, and share. And again, we're working within the web app today only, so we're not going to be doing any data modeling. So really, we're just bringing in data, making it look cool, and then we're going to share it with people. Now, in terms of visualizations, because that's really the meat and potatoes of what we're doing today, and that's just a little vocabulary. Get data is bring in your data sources, create visualizations we do in reports, sharing is something we do through dashboards. You know, if you have a quick overview of that now, that's fine, but again, once we get working with it, you'd be like, all right, I know the difference between a report and a dashboard and data sources. Okay, so I do have a slide here about refreshing data. If you're working with huge data sets, you might not see the latest update of the data. So that means if I'm working on a database that 100 other people have access to, how often does the data refresh? Well, if you're bringing in an Excel spreadsheet into Power BI from your local computer or a network drive, it is never refreshing. You're basically bringing in a snapshot of that data at that one time. But that's not really how Power BI is intended to work. It's really intended to work with other data services. So while you could bring in an Excel spreadsheet from your computer, or you could bring in something from a shared drive in your company, those will really just be a snapshot of that data at any given time, and they won't refresh. The things that will refresh are files or data that you store in OneDrive, personal or for business, from SharePoint libraries, and from other software as a service things that might be stored online, like database is like an SQL database, for instance. So in terms of visualizations, you have your common Excel chart type visualizations, and that's what, if you think about visualizing data and we think about Excel, we think about charts. You also have some non-common Excel charts like gauge charts and funnel charts and waterfall charts. You can do text visualizations, geospatial, so you can put data on maps, which I'll show you how to do today. And then you have other unique visualizations that you may not see in some of your other data modeling tools or data visualization tools. For data sources, they can really be anything. Excel workbooks, even simple CSV files can be brought into Power BI. Software as a service solutions, Azure services, custom applications, SQL databases, and really anything that has data in it, you can connect and bring into Power BI. I will show you a quick way to do that. However, we're going to be focusing on Excel spreadsheets and pre-made data today. All right, everybody, I think we're ready. Let's just jump right into it. So how do I start using Power BI? Well, if you already have Office 365 and your company has given you access to Power BI, you may see Power BI as soon as you log in. However, what if I don't have it, or what if I want to start using it on my own? Well, you just look for or search for Power BI. And when you do that, you should be able to get right into Power BI. Let's find the quick link, Power BI Visualize Data. Okay, and there we go. Download free if you want to get the desktop app, or sign up for free. And that's it, guys. So powerbi.microsoft.com. I will give you that link. But that is all you need to start. And even if you have an existing work account, you can say sign up for free, put in your work credentials, and then it'll add that app for you, provided that your organization will allow access to it. So let me put that in the chat, guys. I want you to have the link so you know where to go. Now, once I have it, I'm going to go ahead and click Power BI, which is going to take me to the web app. Perfect. All right, so now that I'm in the web app, let's get a quick understanding of the interface, and then we'll get going here. So when you log in, you have your Office 365 control bar at the top. Okay, great. Down below that, I've got some other locations and things that I can access, which we will talk about later on. But really, what we're focusing on is your workspace. So once I bring in data, this workspace will light up, and I'll have all sorts of things that I can work within that are the components of Power BI. Now, since I do not have any data currently, it's saying, welcome to Power BI. Let's get you some data. Do you want to discover content that might already be available in your organization? Do you want to connect to apps and services that will bring in data? Do you want to use a file from your computer, like an Excel workbook or a CSV file, a comma delimited file? Or do you want to connect to an existing database that you already have? All right, so you've got a whole bunch of options here to get going. So I don't have anything in our organization because this is just a trial account, but you may have something there you can explore. If I say get data for services here, we'll just take a peek at what you can connect to so you get an idea. At this point in time, I believe it's 203. Don't quote me on that, guys, but there are a lot of different services that you can connect to. So here's a perfect example. A lot of companies are using Salesforce as their CRM. Your company may not. But Salesforce is something that I can bring in. So I can bring in Salesforce data right into Power BI and visualize it. Okay, so again, I'm just kind of scrolling through here kind of quickly. But you see there's a lot of things here that we can connect to bring in our data and visualize it right in Power BI. And I'm not sure if Salesforce popped up here, but you may have seen a couple things that might be interesting to you. Again, you can type right in here. I'm sure if I type Salesforce, and there we go. So like I said, you can connect to Salesforce. Perfect. All right, so that's services. Files is something we'll start out with, but let's take a peek at databases now. SQL database, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, right? So you've got a bunch of options here for connecting to your data here as well. Perfect. All right. Now, how do I get back? I can go right back down here at any time to get data. That'll take me right back to this page. Okay, so that's what I just did. So let's talk about an Excel file. So I'm going to just show you my desktop for a second, and I'm going to show you an Excel spreadsheet that I have ready to go. Okay, here's my Excel spreadsheet. We all know what Excel spreadsheets look like. Okay, so this one's got a handful of data. All right, I'd really like to bring this into Power BI. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to go to the Power BI app. I'm going to say I want to bring in a file, and I'm going to click Get. Local file from my computer. I can also pull in from my OneDrive or SharePoint. Remember, this does not refresh. These three do. So think about that. If your data is ever going to change, maybe you want to store it on one of these things instead. Because if I just bring in my local file, it's going to be a snapshot of that Excel spreadsheet. So let me go to my desktop. I'm going to select the Excel file, and when I click Open, prepare to be disappointed. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and say Upload, but watch what happens, and I'll explain these two things in just a second. Your Excel workbook is now in your list of workbooks. Okay, so it did work. There was a problem before, and I don't think it's an issue anymore, which is kind of cool, but let me show you something. To bring in data, let me just double check and see if it came in. Oh, I brought it in as a workbook. That was my mistake. This is what I want to show you that you're going to be disappointed with. And I'll explain this a little bit better here. So I'll bring in the local file. I'll bring it in. I'll talk about these two things now. Import Excel into Power BI so you can visualize it. This is actually the one you want. I just started clicking very quickly. The other option is to upload Excel file to Power BI as a spreadsheet. So if you upload it as a spreadsheet, it makes a copy of it as an Excel spreadsheet, but then it doesn't allow you to visualize it. So really, this is what I'm looking for. Now, when I click this, prepare to be disappointed, we could not bring in your data. Well, why the heck not? It looks like a normal Excel spreadsheet, so why can't you bring it in? If you want to bring in an Excel workbook, which is probably how you're going to start in Power BI, there's one little thing you need to do to your data in order for it to work, and here it is. Just click in the data set, go to the Insert tab at the top. You need to format it as an Excel table. So if you want to write a note, so click in your data, Insert tab at the top, click Table. And then it asks you, do you want to convert all this data to a table? Yep. Does your data have headers? It sure does. When I click OK, it's going to format it as an Excel table. I'll now hit the Save button, and then I will go back to Power BI. So let me close out of it. Go to Power BI, do the exact same thing I did 2 seconds ago. But you'll see this time it will actually work because it's formatted as a table. And you can see now it's importing, now it's bringing it in. And look at what happened underneath my workspace. I told you as soon as we bring data in, this whole thing's going to light up and we'll have all of our options here. So it's showing me I have connection to that data set. I have that Excel table right here. I do not have any reports, and I do have one dashboard that it gave me. Now, I'm going to remove this dashboard. Don't worry about what I'm doing right now for this. We'll talk about dashboards in a minute. The first thing is, the most important thing is, the Excel spreadsheet is here ready for me to use. Now, when a data set is connected to Power BI, remember, you're not here to edit that data. That data exists in an Excel spreadsheet, and if I want to change that data, I go to the Excel spreadsheet to change it. I'm not changing it in Power BI. All I'm doing is visualizing that data in Power BI. So when I click on the data set, watch what actually happens. It creates a report for me. A report is where we build our visualizations. Now, how do I know this is a report? Well, I've only done this 100 times, but here's the other way. If I go to File at the top, it says Save this report. So I'm going to go ahead and say My First Report. Okay, now when I click Save, watch what happens. Under Reports, it has My First Report. So I'm not actually changing or interacting with the data like a spreadsheet anymore. I'm working on that data, and it's bringing it into reports for me to make visualizations. Okay, so that's good. In the report, which is where I'm at right now, and you can tell it gives you a little breadcrumb trail at the top here to let you know where you're at. You do have some options at the top, but really what I want to show you is right down below is your workspace, where you're going to create visualizations. On the right-hand side is a list of different types of visualizations. And then to the right of that is the fields or the columns from my Excel spreadsheet. City, first name, ID, last name, latitude, longitude, phone number, request date, month, year, state, address, and so on. Now, you might also notice that Power BI is putting little icons next to some of these, and that's just letting me know that it's decided, because, guys, there is AI in the background. There's artificial intelligence in the background that has already looked at all of my columns and made a decision about which would be the best way to visualize those. And I'll reference that again when I bring in a bigger data set here, and you'll see it. So let me just bring in city, and let's just see what happens. So how do I create a visualization? Well, you have two ways. You can just start dragging in the fields that you want to see and then choose the visualization, or you can start out by saying, I know that I want a clustered column chart. And if I click the button, now I've got a visualization set up for a clustered column, which I could then bring in fields into. Okay? Now I know we're not seeing anything yet because we really haven't built this up too much. Okay? And then I can see a city and state. And as I start to add more things here, let me do a date actually. Let's do request date. You see it's starting to build the visualization for me. Okay, so that's one way. Now I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to click the three dots here and remove it. Let me show you another way to do this. If I just drag city on its own and drop it, the AI will kick in and make a decision about what's best to view city. And take a look at that. It thinks a map is a good way to view city data. I totally agree with it. And there we go. So now I've got all the data brought in by city. So every city name that is referenced in my Excel spreadsheet is now listed on this map. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and drop state in here as well. And now you see I get a color change here. I'm getting more data referenced here. Okay? Perfect. All right, I'm going to go ahead and even throw in zip code. And it's just going to keep enriching my map even further. Now, okay, I've got a visualization, but what do I really do with this right now? Well, let me bring something else in here. I'm going to bring in city again. We know it's going to give me a map, but maybe I don't want a map. Well, I can go right over here to the visualizations and take a look and see that it is giving me a map. In fact, maybe I'd like to view that like a normal table. There we go. Now I've got a list of all the cities. Maybe I'd like to do the same thing and bring state in there. And you can see how this works. So guys, here's the good news. Power BI is easy. It's super easy. You just start dragging things around and start making visualizations. It's helping you, making decisions for you in the background to make sure that you're really getting a good view of your data. Now, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm actually going to go to a bigger data set here, but I want to show you now that I've decided on two visualizations, and again, you can resize these and move these all day. Watch what happens when I start interacting with the visualizations in Power BI. I just clicked on Aurora, Oregon, and it took me to Aurora. That's not the right one, so it's maybe going off of the first Aurora, which would be CO for Colorado. So since I don't have these sorted, that's most likely the case. All right, let's go with the state then. I don't know why OR is taking me to Colorado. That's kind of weird. Let's try another one. There we go. Okay. And it could just be the way that the data is set up. But now you can see I can interact with things on the map here directly as well. And you see it'll start taking me in and focusing me in on this content. All right, let's get better data in here. That spreadsheet's not all that great. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get rid of the report because I don't really like that report anyways. I'll leave the data set in there because maybe I'll use it in a minute. But I'm going to bring in new data. Now, when you load Power BI, when you have access to Power BI, they give you access to really great sample data. Not a bad place to get started here. Okay, now I'll go ahead and click samples. There's a customer profitability sample, and human resource sample, and IT sample, and all these other samples that you can bring in. Now I'm going to bring in the retail analysis sample, but before I do that, I want you to look here. I have one data set called customer catalog request. That's my Excel spreadsheet. No workbooks, no reports, no dashboards. When I bring in the sample data, watch what happens. It's going to take a second. But do you see what already popped up for me? It gave me the retail analysis sample, which is many tables connected together. Okay, so there's modeling already built into that one as well. It gave me a report. So So here's my report sheet with a ton of visualizations on it, and it gave me a dashboard. And there we go. Now let's talk about the difference between a dashboard and a report. So think of reports as your working space. Reports are where you're going to build the visualizations. Once you get a whole bunch of really great looking reports put together and a bunch of visualizations built in the reports, you might want to publish them to an audience. That is what a dashboard is. So if you notice, a dashboard is really just a single page view of certain visualizations that I wanted people to see. Okay? So if I go to the report, let's try to find two of these. This year's sales and maybe this year's sales, last year's sales. Okay, so I'm just picking out two random visualizations here. When I go to the report and I take a look, okay, so I found one of them right away, but I don't know where the other one is. But if I look, reports can have many pages, and here's my other example. Okay, cool. So reports are your workspace. That's where you create all the visualizations. Once you get your visualizations dialed in and you want to share them with an audience, you publish them to a dashboard, which is a page. Okay? And again, more on that later, guys. But that's what it brought in for me. The data, a report, and a dashboard. Now, even though they have their own report made, and I could add to it, I'm going to go ahead and just start my own report. So remember, to create a brand new report off of any data set, you go under Datasets and you click on it. Now I have a clean report for the retail analysis sample. I'm going to take the opportunity and just save it right away. I'll put my name on it. And then I'll click Save. All right, perfect. All right, so I'm going to go ahead now and start making some visualizations. But before I do that, look at the right-hand side of my fields. This data, this sample data that was brought in, is not one table like our customer catalog request. It is many tables. There's a sales table with many columns. There is a district table with 2 columns. There is an item table with a couple columns, store table, time table. Okay? So this data is modeled. It probably came from a database or was modeled in the Power BI desktop. So there's relationships between each table. There's something in sales. There's a similar column between sales and district and item, most likely sales and item and store, that all kind of connect so that there's a join between them. Anyways, let's start working with the data. I mentioned that the AI that's built in is going to make decisions on the data based on the data type, the column type. So territory, it's put a little globe. I know this is probably crazy hard to see, guys, on your screen here, but that is a little globe. Let me see if I can do anything about that at all. Why not a magnifier? How about that? All right, so globe is going to put it in a map. That's going to put it in a table. It looks like a little calculated table. Usually the multiplication or the addition symbol there, or sum symbol, is going to give us a table as well. But you can kind of get the idea of what it's doing here. It's looking at the data and making decisions. Anyways, let's do another map. I'm going to drag territory out and drop it, and you see, of course, it put territory on a map. Okay, great. Cool. So that's our first visualization for that. Now I can also say, you know what, let's throw sales on there. Let's do total sales by territory. And maybe we need store name in there. Store number name. Okay. So now in each state, which is what the territories are, we have every store. Okay. So I know that's kind of hard to visualize right now, but let me go ahead and add territory again. But you know what? I'll set up a table for it. So I'm going to deselect my current visualization because I don't want to change it. And then I'm going to add in a table. All right. Then I'll drop territory in table. All right, so let's explore the territories a little bit further. Move that up. Shrink it down. Move it up. There we go. I don't know why it's not wanting to move for me. Things might be a little bit too condensed on it, so let me try moving it again. Couldn't get to the gripper. Well, that's all right. I'll use it down here. You should be able to move things wherever you want them within Power BI. I don't know why this thing's acting a little funky today, because it would just be too easy if it didn't. All right, so I just clicked on DE, and that zoomed me in a little bit on the map here, and I can zoom in myself if I need to. Okay, and then it tells me the store names at the top. And again, I know this might be kind of hard to see in our webinar here, but it's saying Glasgow Lindsay's and Wilmington Lindsay's. So there's 2 stores in that particular region. Okay, so let's go to Kentucky. Okay, and I'll zoom in on that. And once I zoom in on that, I can see that there are a couple stores in there. Fashion Direct, Lindsay's, and Lindsay's. Okay, so again, just based on what I've thrown in there so far, it's giving me the data. Now let's do something else here. Let's go with sales data. And I'm going to go with this year's sales, the value. Okay, cool. So now again, I can add to my visualizations at any time just by dropping things in very quickly and easily. Okay. All right, so we've explored maps. We've worked with tables for a minute. Let's check out some of the other options that we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a pie chart. And we'll just throw some stuff in and see what we get with the pie chart. So I'll click on pie chart. Got a pie chart down here. Let me see if I can move this thing. Yeah, I can move that one. Perfect. Make this nice and big so we can really work with it. So I want to kind of know the same thing. I want to know by territory what stores I have by name. Now, this didn't really give me what I was hoping for. Dragging and dropping's worked out pretty well for us so far, but now we're kind of running into a problem where we're not getting the visualization I'm hoping for. So let me introduce you to something new that we haven't seen yet. We know fields are on the right, visualizations are on the left, but if you notice below visualizations is the structure for your selected visualization. So if I click over here to the map, notice that we get different things that pop up here, right? If I click on the table, different things pop up. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my pie chart. Well, the pie chart's not working out very well because I didn't have the data in the right place. So now that I've moved the values or details, which was the store name, down to values, now I can actually see it. And you know what? I might need to see it in 2 places here. We might need to add some tooltips here as well, so I know what the heck I'm looking at. Let's throw it up here. There we go. So now that I've added store number name in 2 places, I'm getting much more of a visualization here. And then as a matter of fact, I want to make this bigger so you can see it a little bit better. There's my visualization. So these are important. It's important to be aware of the fields that you have within your visualizations, and knowing that if you're not getting the right view, you can just kind of pivot these things around and get an update, okay? All right, so maybe that's a little overwhelming because now I have every single store name and location. So maybe I want to try throwing territory in there. And again, we already had territory listed, so I guess that's not really going to benefit me. So I'll go back to having store number name as the details. There we go. Now again, Power BI is all working together. All your visualizations are working together because it's one report based on one or a couple set of joined data. So now if I click Georgia over here on the left-hand side in the territory table, you'll see that it shows me just that information or highlights that information for me. There we go. Perfect. All right, that's a pretty cool visualization. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to rename this page. So down at the bottom of my report, right-click, rename. So right-clicking does work in the web app. I will call this store location data. Okay, perfect. To create a new sheet, it's just like you do in Excel. Click the little button there, and now we've got a new sheet for visualizations. Now, I'm a little bit more interested in learning more about sales. You know, we've done a ton of stuff with maps. We just saw a basic pie chart. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll switch out the pie chart just to do one more thing with it. So I don't necessarily want to focus on one part of the pie chart, but remember, if you want to try out a different visualization, you just come to visualizations and click. Now, well, let's try a donut chart. Okay, that works. All right, going to page 1, the new page that I created. Let's do some sales stuff here. So I want to see by territory maybe. And again, it'll do a map to start, but I'll change that. Sales value for this year. Okay, and then I'll change it to maybe a pie chart. Okay. Or maybe we'll try a different chart. Let's try a funnel chart. Okay, there we go. Let's try a filled map chart. Now, it's giving me one color. We'd have to actually add more things here to get the difference. So we can play around with that one in a minute, but that's kind of cool. I'll come back to that one. I'm just going to click through a couple different chart types or visualization types just to see an example. So we'll try out a tree map here. For some reason, it's not cooperating with my tree map. So let's switch it back to a pie chart first. and then switch it to a tree map. And I might have lost a column here. Yeah, it turns out I did. All right, so we'll bring them in, back in. Let's go with territory again, which I do see in. Details, let's do sales then. There we go. All right, so by state, Ohio's up here. You can see when I hover over it, it already gives me a tooltip. All right, cool, 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 cool. All right, down below that, you could do some filtering. You do have some drill through options. We're going to talk about filtering in a minute. But I want to move into formatting now. So one thing that we're experiencing right now is these letters are probably really hard for you guys to see. Like you can't see that that's NC most likely. So I'm going to show you now below visualizations. We know we have the fields for the data that were for the visualization. But there's also 3 buttons here. The first button is for fields, so getting all your fields dialed in. The next button to the right is a paint roller, which allows you to do formatting. Let's throw a legend on there so I can see what the heck I'm looking at. All right, that looks good. I could play around with the data colors if I needed to. I don't really necessarily feel a need to do that right now, but I could. You know, maybe Tennessee and Ohio are looking a little bit too similar, so I guess I could come in here and pick a different color if I wanted to. Maybe we'll give it a gray. Oh, there's too many grays out there now that I'm looking. That's okay. You get the idea. So there's data colors, and every single visualization is going to have different options here, everybody, just so you know. Let's throw data labels on and see that. So now I've got the values in there as well. I know that the data labels are kind of hurting a little bit, so let's bring those up. Just bumping them up quite a bit. There we go. Let's see if I can adjust the legend. Yep, let's make that legend a little bit bigger. Okay, we already messed around with data colors, so we're cool with that. Category, right? Let's increase that. I think you get what I'm doing here, right? And at this point in time, guys, I wouldn't be surprised if you're like, I'm ready to just start using my own data. I've gotten enough out of this webinar already that I feel comfortable with jumping in and just playing around with my data. And you should, because again, it's not hard. It's doing a lot of the work for you automatically. All right, do I want a title at the top? I do have a title at the top saying this year's sales by territory. So it's just basing it off of the fields that I brought in the order I brought it in. But I could update that if I wanted to. This year's sales by state. There we go. That gray is not really working. I'll make it solid black. So, oh, I don't need a black background. No. No fill on that. There we go. All right, awesome. You could do background colors and in some cases background pictures, and you really, this is all stuff you can explore on your own for the most part. You can figure a lot of this out on your own. Okay, it's really just formatting at this point, which we all know how to format. All right, cool. So that's another visualization. I like the way that looks. Maybe I also want to include, let's include a different type of visualization. So I want to do a visualization that shows me the store and how close it is to meeting its sales goal for the year. Okay, I think that'll be a cool visualization. So I'm going to bring in the sales, this year's sales value, so I know the number of the sales this year. So that's every store, every region, everything. Okay, I'll throw the goal in there too, because why not? So that's the sales goal for the entire organization. So we're really close together. But again, my goal is to see every store and how close they are to their sales goal. So I'm going to add in the store number name. And I'm just dragging and dropping to start, and then I can figure it out. All right, so now I've got a representation of that. Great. So now I've got every single store. And again, this is kind of squished because of how big this other visualization is. So I'll click over there, shrink this one down a little bit. I think we can do okay with that. That text is really big, so it's going to squish it in quite a bit. But that's okay. So let me just make it so I can see a little bit more of that. All right, cool. So now I can see every single store, its sales, current sales, and this year's goal. Now, this is kind of hard to look at. There's a lot of stores, too many stores. So let's do it this way. I'm going to change the visualization to a gauge. All right, so now we've got the company sales at this point. So let me look at my fields. The value is this year's sales. Great. Minimum value is not set, but my maximum value is not set either. My target value really should be the goal. So I'm going to go back to sales, and I'm going to drop the goal in target value. So again, company as a whole right now. Now, we know if I click on Ohio, going to filter and just show me Ohio. Okay, great. Ohio is at 5 million and it needs to get to 6 million. Great. Or it's pretty close to 6 million. Okay, awesome. What about North Carolina? Okay, there we go. So their goal is only 2 million and they're pretty close to it. So this year's sales is 2,214,000. The goal is 2,357,000. So again, they're pretty close. Now, if I want to do it by individual stores, let me clean up this visualization, just make it a little bit smaller here at the top. Let's throw in a table for store name. And as a matter of fact, I'm not going to do a table this time. You guys know about tables. I want to show you a different one. I want to show you a slicer. Slicer is just designed really for filtering. So here's my slicer. Let's throw in the store number name. We can also throw in territory just so it helps us find it easier if we need to. That may not work because, it doesn't want to work because slicers are meant to be single. So I could control it down here if I wanted to, right? That's not going to work. So maybe I will go with a table for this one because that will allow me to include the territory if that's what I decide I want to see with that. But again, you can make your decision. All right, so let's just go with one store. I'm going to go with just this store right here. Okay, and now again, I can see the visualization right there. And I could share this with that store and they can know where they're at. All right, cool. All right, so that looks pretty good. I like the way that this is laid out and it's starting to look pretty good here. Let me rename my page. Perfect. All right, so the next thing I want to show you is, I think you guys got this at this point. I mean, this is not too hard. You build the visualization. I usually just kind of roll the dice and see what it gives me to start, and then I come in here and start organizing it and arranging it how it works best for me, and then of course you can go in and format it. So I want to make sure that with the remaining time, I show you how to bring in a custom visualization, and then I show you how to create a...
Hello, sorry about that. Thank you for calling Directions Training Center. This is Amber. How can I help you?
Hey, Amber, we can hear you in our webinar, which maybe you want to do or maybe you don't. Your phone skills are on point, for sure. One second, everybody. I'll make sure that she's muted. Okay, back to what we were doing. All right, so custom visualization. So this is all stuff you can find out on your own, guys. These are very similar things that we see in Outlook all the time, or not in Outlook, Excel all the time, right? So you're comfortable with a lot of these. I want to show you how to make a custom visualization. While I think this gauge is kind of cool, I think thermometers are kind of neat for showing sales and sales goals. So I'm going to change this visualization to a thermometer. But before I do that, I need to take a look and see if I have a thermometer, which, spoiler alert, guys, we don't have a thermometer. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go down to the three dots. When I click the three dots, you can import a visualization if you have a file for it. You can import from the Power BI Marketplace, and you can delete custom ones. I'm going to say import from Marketplace. And when I do that, you're going to see there are all sorts of different visualizations that you can bring in to Power BI that are beyond what comes with Power BI out of the box. So there's a lot of other ones to put in there that you can use. Now, I'm looking for gauges, so I'm going to go to the category gauges. This is all stuff you can explore on your own. I'm looking for a thermometer, and that is what I want to add. That's all you need to do. So there it is. So I'm going to click on my visualization, click the thermometer to change it. Now I've got a thermometer. That also allows me the opportunity to make it taller and make this visualization taller if I wanted to. Okay, perfect. All right, so let me just double check and make sure this is in fact how I want it to look. Okay, so I have for my values, I'm going to close out of both of these here. And I'm going to scroll up. Oh, I had the wrong visualization. Don't worry, guys. You can do a Control-Z in this. Undo does work. Get excited. So I'm going to scroll up and just make sure that I'm seeing what I want to see for my thermometer. So for my thermometer that I've now clicked on, temperature is this year's sales. Target value is sales goal. Okay, so it is set up. It is how I want it to look. If I do want to format it, I can come over here and configure it. And again, every single one is going to have its own settings. Every visualization is going to be unique here, how it displays. Okay, so maybe I want that to be white. Good to me. I'm happy with that. Maybe I want the legend and the legend's kind of squished here. squish this one down. This visualization. Okay, and then I'll move this one out so you can see. Okay, cool. Let's go to the fill color, which should look like a thermometer in my opinion. There we go. That looks pretty good. And I think you get the idea. Okay, so that looks good. I know that it's working. I know that if I click, it will filter down to the correct store and show me in both the tree map and within the table and also within the thermometer, it'll show me the correct values. So in Pennsylvania, this particular store has contributed this amount to that full amount of the sales. Great. All right, everybody. So I'm going to take the moment now and I'm going to show you how to create a dashboard. Once your dashboard's created, we will then open it up. I think we should have about 10 minutes at the end here for any additional questions that you may have about Power BI. So I want to make sure we have time for that. So how do I create a dashboard? Well, remember, dashboards are single pages based on your visualizations from your reports. So the workflow is load your data, create the reports that have all the visualizations, and then when you're ready, you make a dashboard. So I like my thermometer. I want to put it on a dashboard. How the heck do I do it? Well, once I click onto the thermometer, I go to the three dots at the top, and I've got some options here to export, show data, remove, and spotlight. If I want to put it on a dashboard, really, actually, all you need to do is pin it. So there's a little pin right here, and it says Pin Visual. So if I click Pin Visual, it's going to say, well, first off, save your report, buddy. All right, well, I haven't saved it in a while, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and save it as, I did save it before, so I'm just going to go to File, Save. Report's been saved. Now I can pin it. Get this out of my face. Pin. Save it. So I guess I need to rename it. Save your report. And all right. Now what dashboard do you want to pin it to? I'm going to create a new dashboard. I'm going to call it My Dashboard. All right. And when I click pin, it's going to pin it. So now if you take a look under dashboards, I have my dashboard. And when I click on it, it's my dashboard. Great. I'm going to go back to that report. Okay, and I'm going to pin another visualization. So I'm going to take the tree map and I'm going to click pin. I'm going to pin it to the existing dashboard, my dashboard. And then I'll switch to the dashboard so you can see it. And there it is. And of course, obviously you can control these things. If I go to the lower right-hand corner, I can instantly click and drag and make this bigger if I need to, so it can show more. And I can make this one a little bit smaller. That intent. All right, I can move this one over just by dragging. Make this one a little bit wider, I think. Oh, and also my text is very. So there's one little caveat to dashboards that you need to be aware of that I need to tell you. While dashboards are great, they are a snapshot in time of this data. This data is not linked to the original data that it came from. That means if I go back to my report and I change this visualization, so I have to go back and edit the report. I've got to click Edit at the top. Click on the visualization. I'm going to change the color of the thermometer again just to do it. We'll do a yellow thermometer. A little bit darker. That's okay. Yeah, no, we can't accept that. Let's not accept that. All right, there we go. All right, now I'm going to save it. Go back to my dashboard, and you'll notice it didn't change. So this is important. Dashboards are great because they allow you to make that snapshot of your data, and it allows you to share it with people at any given time, and it allows you to put it in presentations if you want to, but the downside is that they're static. They're not linked to the original data. Now that's kind of a bummer, isn't it? Because everything else we've done in Power BI has been linked together and working perfectly. So what if I want to have it connected? Can I make a dashboard that is connected? The answer is yes. And there is one special way to do that I'm going to show you right now. I'm going back to the report. I'm going to edit my report. And here's what I'd recommend that you do. Make a special page in your report called Dashboard. Although it's not technically a dashboard, it's just a page in your report called Dashboard. Now I can come over here and I can select visualizations I'm really into, and you can copy and paste them over. So get excited about that. All your shortcuts work. Okay, so there's that. I'll bring over the thermometer just to bring one more over. Okay, copy, paste. Yes, they are all linked together. Nope, that's not. There we go. All right, and now this is my dashboard. I've already created it in my report. It's already based off of things in my report, and it is linked to everything within my report. So how do I make this a dashboard that is or does update? To do that, you're going to go up to the top, and I know, guys, we don't have, this is a full day class, believe it or not, for Power BI. So really, this is just to get you in and get you going. But I recommend that if you are interested, you do explore the class that we do offer for Power BI. I think we have 2 levels at this point. So we will go into all this other stuff, but all the way on the right-hand side is something called Pin Live Page. This makes a live dashboard page that is linked back to my original data. So I'm going to click Pin Live Page. Okay, it wants me to save my report again. I'll click Save. And then it says, what dashboard? I'm going to say, New Dashboard, My Live Dashboard. Okay? Now when I go to My Live Dashboard, you see I didn't have to do any work. It was just already created in my report. Awesome. Now, what happens if I change things? Well, let me go back to the report. Again, I'll click Edit Report at the top. I will click onto my thermometer and change the color just one more time. We'll go back to red. Okay, I'm going to save the report. Go back to my live dashboard, and you'll see it. Okay, so if I had to tell you one thing about dashboards that was important, that would probably be it. Now, to save your dashboard, you hit the share button at the top. That's it, guys, and then you can share it with an audience. Let me also go back here and tell you one other thing. With the reports, guys, the reports are yours. Although you can share your report with other people, they can't edit them with you. If you wanted to edit reports with other people, you can't do it in your workspace. You would need to do it in another workspace. And again, guys, this is something that I'd have to show you in another class we don't really have time for, but you can create in Office 365, any Office 365 group can be added as a workspace in Power BI, and any member of that Office 365 group can edit the same reports with you. All right, I hope that answered a lot of the questions that might have come up for you already as you were thinking through it. But like I said, I wanted to try to make sure we had at least 10 minutes at the end for any specific questions you have. And we have that time right now. So if you have any questions about Power BI, feel free to unmute your mic and ask or type it in the chat box. I can see some people typing. I'll tell you what, I'm going to poll you guys real quick, just very simply. If you learned something in this class, I want you to hit the thumbs up button. All right, cool. Awesome. So it seems like a lot of us learned some things throughout the training. Now, hopefully you guys saw those little survey questions that popped up. If there are any additional ones, Shannon, if you want to just, kind of go through the rest of them to give everybody an opportunity to fill those out. And if you do have questions, like I said, you can type it right in the chat box there. Do other users need to have Power BI in order to preview your reports? That's a very good question. Yes, if you are going to share a report with them, remember, they will not be able to edit it unless it's a part of an Office 365 group. So if you're sharing your own report, they'll only be able to view it, and they would need Power BI for that. However, with dashboards, you can share out dashboards however you want to do it. And there's even web views, phone views. You can publish to PowerPoint in a number of different ways that don't require them to have Power BI. When I click share, I can just share a link and they'll see it like a web page, basically. That's an excellent question. All right, everybody, if you do not have any other questions, I'm not really going to keep anybody past our training content. That's what I have for you today. If you do have additional questions, feel free to stay on the line. I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. If you don't have any other questions, you're all free to go. Thank you very much for attending the training. I encourage you to check out our website, which is directionstraining.com. We offer a bunch of different classes on Power BI and Office 365. But like I said, if you do have additional questions, feel free to stay on the line. If you do not have any other questions, you are all free to go. Thank you very much.